Welcome to another episode of the An Intimate Conversation with Women of Color show. Today's guest is Pam Illar. Pam is a senior associate with Ernst& Young, LLP. She is working hard at building a better working world. Pam is also a longstanding member of EY's professional networks, Unity, LGBTQ, and Accessibilities, a resource for people with disabilities. And I love this, and I had to definitely call this one out, but was a panelist at the Out and Equal conference in 2019, an intimate conversation with LGBTQ plus women of color and allies. Pam, tell us more about you.
First, Denise, I want to thank you for offering me the space. Um, what I'll tell you is that I'm a Black, gay, out and proud woman. I am also living in recovery and with a mental health diagnosis of depression. I live with my wife, Linda, my Scottish bride. We have two sons, Justin and Alex, and we have two fur babies, a Roddy named Ruth, after Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and our German Shepherd Gus. We live here in San Antonio, Texas. Um, I also work for Ernst& Young. I believe is the best place in the world to work. I've been with EY for I forget what it is now. We're 14 years since 2006. So we'll do the math there.
Yeah.
um, with E&Y, they have a strong commitment to diversity and inclusiveness. That's one of their key priorities. So I've been involved in a Unity. I've done Pride events. Um, I also have worked with the Accessibilities group. Both professional networks, Accessibilities, I work with a focus on mental health. Um, what else can I tell you? I'm a supervisory associate. I just recently got promoted. I work in tax quality. I'm a member of the First Unitarian Universalist Church of San Antonio. And what else do I want to tell you? I hate, you get so flustered. Anyway, um, that's about, all I can tell you right now. Like, um, you never want to talk too much about yourself because you feel like your head's getting bigger. Um, but yeah, that's kind of the quick and short of it right there.
Yeah, well, you know what, Pam, this is all about you. So, yes, it is all about you. So feel free to share whatever you want to share. I'm sure, we'll probably get to it, right? So as we're
Right,
having our intimate conversation, those things that you were thinking about will probably pop back up. So
right, right.
so first of all, welcome.
Thank
Welcome, welcome,
thank
welcome.
you.
And so I like to share how I know my guests. And
Okay,
which is part of what I mentioned when I was giving a brief introduction of you. And so
right.
Pam was on my last panel. So for those who have listened, those who understand how this panel, how the podcast came about, an intimate conversation, it's from a panel. And the panel was at Out and Equal. It was in 2017, and Pam was on the last panel. And the last panel was matriarchs of color. And so everybody was a parent, either already in a community parenting or parenting a child who is in a community. And so
Right.
that was the makeup of that panel. And I have to actually shout out EY because Chris Crespo is a great collaborator. And Chris provided,
Yes.
as a matter of fact, I had somebody from EY on every single panel. In my very first panel, I had
Wow.
Blaine, and I hadn't even met Chris. I had, connected with her in email, reached out to her, let her know
Right.
what I was doing. She
Right.
recommended someone, and again, each year, EY was in the house. Chris
Right,
definitely
right.
represented. So shout out to Chris Crespo. And that's how Pam and I were connected. And so that was in 2019. And Pam will tell you, we stayed connected.
Yes, we did. We
you
share a
know,
lot,
right?
back and forth. Right.
Yeah,
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 I
absolutely.
love that. I
Yes,
love that.
it's a sisterhood.
It is
That's
a
what it's
sisterhood.
definitely a sisterhood. So it's gone from a panel to a podcast. And now, for those of you who don't know if you caught it, but I said a show because now I'm calling it a show, right? Because you can listen on your favorite podcast platform. You can watch on YouTube. So I'm not no longer calling it just a podcast. It is a show.
Go, Denise.
Okay. Woo,
You
woo,
work
woo.
it.
Hey, ma'am, listen, leveling up, soaring in 2021. That's what this year is about for me.
I
And
love that.
I'm wearing this shirt actually uh, for Pam. I'm wearing a shirt for Pam because a lot of what we're going to talk about is in this space.
Yeah.
Right. So, went to the basketball game. It was Pride Night. They gave out the shirts. And also want to just shout out for a moment Kevin Hurd. He's with the Chamber of Commerce, LGBTQ plus Chamber of Commerce in Metro Detroit. And so
Right.
Kevin is a friend. He invited me. And so, here's the shirt.
I
And
love that.
yeah, isn't it a nice shirt? And I thought,
It's
I'm like, I have to wear this when Pam and I talk. Because
yes.
I know, your story. I know,
Yeah.
and I'll just even talk about basically what you experienced last year, right?
Right.
This shirt speaks to that.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
Pam, being a woman who is who is recovering from addiction and
Right.
has faced mental health issues, why is it
Right.
important for Black women, such as yourself, to have a platform to use your voice and their voices?
Well, the one thing I can tell you is that there's been a long history of women, of Black women in this country that have, pulled up their bootstraps. They've survived slavery.
Mm,
They've survived discrimination. They've survived being, at the bottom of the employment chain. Like they've survived raising kids. And so there's been a history of just getting through it.
mm,
And you know what? There's a lot of us who don't just get through it, right? There are traumas that happen, or even if it's like just an internal physical thing that happens. That for me, depression comes on really. It grabs your soul,
mm,
right? And so for me, I can remember when I was 11 years old, that was the first time that I actually made an attempt to take my life.
mm,
And to come and work through the mountain, instead of looking at the mountain and seeing how tall it is and not being able to get up there, um, I've worked through a lot. And I've come partway through the mountain, further than I thought I'd get, right? And I think what's important is to let other women know, let little girls know that are having these struggles and they don't know what it is or how to vocalize that I'm not feeling okay.
mhm,
I can't get out of bed, or I'm angry. It's important for Black women, layer on that gay women, layer on that transgender women of color or men of color, like layer on as much as you want. But at the end of the day, it's important for me to say to other people, other women, that it's okay.
yeah,
It's okay to ask for help.
mm,
It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's not a weakness. It's actually the greatest strength to reach out for help. So I hope that if there's anyone out there If there's an 11-year-old girl like me out there that is struggling mightily to survive, to live, that they see me, and though not every day is, waking up like Snow White, right? With the birds in the air and the seven dwarves, dwarves running around. Some days are like that. Some days are like Game of Thrones, you know, but I hope that one person can hear me and not take their life. And that's why I think it's important to just rip apart the stigma, especially in our community, right? Of around mental illness. So I'm hoping to use my voice to help someone or encourage other Black women, um, to say, listen, I have this thing too, and it's okay. It's okay to say I'm not okay. So
I like that, working through the mountain,
yeah,
through that's key, right?
yes,
Because what that's saying is it's a process,
yes,
it's a journey.
yes,
It's not something that's just going to go away.
correct,
So you go through it,
right,
you grow through it,
that's correct,
you glow through it,
yes,
and you get through
yeah,
it,
that's correct,
right?
that's
And
correct,
that's powerful. That is absolutely powerful. And I appreciate you sharing your experience, and as early as 11, and the trauma. We don't call things trauma. We don't call traumatic experiences what they are. And I
right,
think that when we don't, um, it doesn't have the same impact, right? Because, oh, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm good. No, you're not.
you're not
You
like
just
I
experienced
just
something.
went through something. Yeah,
Right.
it's okay. Like glancing over it. I absolutely used to do that. But just, well, this happened to me, and keep on stepping,
Right.
you know,
We have
and
to
you can't
stop
do that.
that. Yes. We absolutely have to
Yes,
stop that. We have to let people know, hey, I'm not good. This thing that just,
right,
was not okay. I don't feel good. I
right,
need a moment. I'm going to take a break. I'm taking tomorrow off. Whatever it is that we need to do,
right.
we need to do it because it will sneak up on us and
Yes,
become physical,
correct,
right?
correct,
Become a mental or, illness or whatever it is. And now we got to deal with that, right? You talked
right,
about the layers on
right,
top of layers. So now we have to
right,
deal with that
right,
when we could
right.
have taken the time to
That's
address it.
correct. And the statistics get like staggering, right? Of people that don't reach out for
Yeah.
help, right? Or the suicide rate, like the lights. We lose these powerful lights in people every day
Mm,
because they don't think they can make it, right?
right.
Um, but you're correct. The statistics are staggering, right? And I forgot what I was just going to say because you just touched on something that was so important. uh, it's okay to ask, to say, I need a day,
Yeah.
right? I, I and I'm going to keep coming around to this because I'm so proud, right? I work with a great team, my little tax quality team, a powerful group of people, uh, and they allow me, because of the firm, because of what EY projects, what they stand on, what they mean. It's not just words, it's actually do this because it's for your well-being. So if you need to take a day,
Yeah.
take a day, you know, but it's not just work, right? It's it we often describe it as going to this rabbit hole, right? It's like a well. And there are, in my life, I have just gone to the well, and I've used eating, I've used smoking, I've used sugar, I've used alcohol and drugs, right? To try to climb up out of the well,
Mm,
right? Um, And what I'll tell you is, I don't have to go down into the well anymore. And I don't have to use anything to try to get out or to feel comfortable in that space. Because once I get in that space, I can just stay in that space. It's more comfortable
Yeah.
than to try to work my way out. And so, support from your family. There are cues that Linda has learned to pick up on,
Mm,
and she'll literally say to me, are you going near the hole?
mm,
Right? So family and friends, when when I stop calling, when I stop picking up the phone, when I stop responding to text, um, when I'm not getting out of the bed, when there's a whole bunch of trash that's accumulated, these are all signs. So we don't have to go directly there,
mm.
right? If we reach out for help, we have this chance to learn this slew of tools that keep us from just going from kind of being okay to just feeling like the pit of your soul is just going to fall right out from under you, like from within you. Like it, it's this moment where it's like it's not worth it. And what one of the reasons I'm so honored you asked me to be here is because it doesn't it doesn't have to go straight there. But also when you're in that space, there's all these tools to help you take it 1 minute at a time to work your way out. Sometimes it's if I've been down for 3 days, sometimes the fourth day, brush your teeth. Sometimes the fifth day, take a shower.
Mm.
Sometimes the sixth day, actually sit out on the couch and talk to Linda. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I've learned all these tools. Um, but you're right. We don't just go from the start of the mountain, to the other side.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work. There's work that has to be done to get there. So
So Pam, how did you get to that point, or and Linda helping Linda to understand those cues, to recognize those cues? How did you get there? So for those that are listening that may be struggling with something, um, how did you get to those cues? How are you able to pull your community in to say, "Hey, when you see this, um, I'm not okay."
right. Um, just um, I love my wife. Um, she loves me. She doesn't want to see me die.
Mm,
So there were these years that would go by, in our marriage, and I would go into the hole a lot. And that's scary for someone that loves you.
yeah,
Linda, my parents, my sons, my brother, it's terrifying because they don't know what's really going on in my mind. They don't know if I'm making a plan, you
yeah,
know. They don't know. She doesn't know when she leaves. Um, she's a tractor trailer driver. So she doesn't know right when she leaves on a tour if I'm going to be here, if I'm in the hole.
wow,
And so that had to, that's a scary thing. You're out on the road driving through Texas and, is my wife okay? She's not answering the phone, she's not answering my text. And so we had to come up with a different way to handle this. Um, and it was because for me to save my life, but it was also for those that love me. One, to let them know what it's like, and two, to find tools for them
yeah.
to be able to feel like they have some way of supporting and lifting me when I'm in those spaces. Um, I think that that's critical. There are groups out there, there are depression support groups, might cost you $7 for an hour, but you go to your group, right? But then there are groups for the families of people that are living with depression. And so they go to their groups and they get tools. A lot of my tools came from um, hospitalizations, you
Mhm.
know. Um, they came from people that helped to see what was going on inside me and knew that like depression's not going to go away from me. So I have to learn to live with it. And one of the ways I like to think of it now is depression has to learn a way to live with me.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
there's a switch that happens when you've worked and struggled and you felt like you're not going to make it, where I actually look at depression as a like physical body, like a being that's just trying to kill me, you
Mhm.
know. So listening to podcasts like this, listening to the little bits of things. Okay, I've been in that place or I'm in that place. It's been 3 days, you know. Um, okay, so tomorrow I'm gonna brush my teeth, right? And that just it's just any action when you're in that space helps, right? As far as work goes, EY creates this space where um, they recognize that it's it helps the firm more if there is opportunities and resources like this and spaces like this to say, are you okay?
Yeah.
Or we care, right? And if you need a day, you know, take the
Take it.
time you need. You come back better, when you've worked with yourself, when you've asked for help, when you receive help, you actually come back as a better employee, right? So why not invest in that?
Yeah.
And they have. That has helped me tremendously. My team is aware on some level, right? Because it's important to own your own
Mhm.
space
Yeah.
and let be comfortable. You have to be careful with, who you allow to see yourself,
Yeah.
to see who you are, and how you navigate. And so, I've shared enough to where they understand that there are going to be some days where I'm going to struggle and that I might ask for a day or half a day. And they just show up,
Yeah.
as I would show up for them, you know. So I don't know if any of that made sense.
Oh,
I could
all of
go
it.
on for days and days.
No, it was absolutely perfect because even before you got to the part of owning it, owning your own, I was thinking that anything that anybody is going through, whatever it is, it's up to you to express that and share that with other people,
Right,
right? Because you know what's going on,
right, right,
right? You can't always, expect someone else to pick up on those things,
right,
right? But you know.
right.
So for you to go ahead and initiate that conversation, whatever it is that you reveal to another person, to whatever extent, you own that. But
That's
it
correct.
does require that you say something because, everybody has their own stuff that they're going through. And folks
Right,
aren't
right.
necessarily picking up on cues, if you
Yes,
will, unless you've kind of established that. So it
right,
definitely starts with you. Hey, you know what? I'm not feeling right. Whatever it is, talk to somebody and
right.
then make sure you're talking to those people that you feel comfortable and safe, that have communicated that and or established that. But it does take your ownership, to
Correct.
get that started. And of
Yeah,
course there are some people who they don't know, they don't really understand what's going on, so they don't know what to say, how to say, and at times, um, other people may pick up on that. But I think that it is truly, you have to say
yes.
something. And I even think about myself. I remember when I lived in Las Vegas, it was back in 2012. It was actually right
Mhm.
before Labor Day. My garage
Right,
caught on
right,
fire, and so it was just my son and I living in Vegas. He was young, maybe, I don't even know if he was 10 yet. And
right,
so my garage caught on fire. I really didn't tell anyone, right? I didn't tell my coworkers, none of that. And we did have to, we were displaced for
God,
a couple days and then ended up spending a week in a hotel, right? Didn't really tell anybody. And then made the decision that I was moving back home. But when I finally did mention it to like my team,
right,
and it actually was at the point where it's like, okay, such and such is my last day.
right.
I remember one of my coworkers, I remember David saying to me that you didn't have to do that alone.
Yes, 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 right? You don't, you
Nope.
know? When we do this alone, we rob people
Yes. Oh,
of the opportunity to help. That is a blessing for someone else to say, hey, what can I do? How
right.
can I help? If we don't let like give them that
Mhm.
chance, we're robbing them of a chance to
Here we
be a
are.
be part of our pack, you
Yes.
know?
Yes, yes, and you're so right at robbing them of a blessing because it may,
Yeah,
not to say that they're sitting around waiting, but in essence they are because
right,
that was put in them. You know what I'm
right,
saying? It was maybe part of
right,
their calling. And so when we don't share and we don't tell anybody, yeah, we are. We're kind of
right.
blocking that. So yeah,
That's
so
right.
again, based on every out of everything that we talked about, one of the key thing is you got to tell somebody. You got to
Yes,
let people know, hey, I'm not okay, I'm not quite sure what's going on, I need a minute, whatever it is. We definitely
and
owe that
and
to
I
ourselves and
will.
others.
That's right. And sometimes it's like I don't want to tell my family.
Mm,
I don't want to worry them.
yeah,
Your general practitioner, you know, that's a place where it's just you and the doctor, and that's a place where you can say, I need some help.
yeah,
And it's not like they're going to say, you have to go here right away. It might just be, I need to talk to somebody.
hmm,
Okay, well, let me give you a number. You
yeah,
know, resources at work, even with your church, you know, uh, those are all places where you can go, right? To say, hey, I need some help.
yeah,
I'm not doing too well right
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
everything that what you're describing is, and so for those of you that are listening and listen before and kind of keep up with the episodes, finding your tribe, finding
yeah,
your squad,
right,
it's a bunch of people that can fit
yeah,
in here, and everybody has a role to play, and you
yes,
want to pull those people in to play their parts, but
yes,
you have
absolutely.
to speak up and initiate that. So last year, you use your voice to ask and answer. Really, God? Tell us
Right.
more about this and how are you using your voice for Black women in recovery and managing health issues, mental health
Yeah,
issues?
you know, for the longest time, I felt so different, you know. So I'm struggling with depression, don't know it. And then I discover I have feelings for girls instead of guys, right? So high school comes along. It's my first girlfriend. We write letters to each other, and in one of the classes, someone, let's just say, got their hands on the letter, uh, and it spread like wildfire through the school. Uh, so that was a point where I didn't think I was going to make it because when I got home, my mom had found letters. And so it was like a double whammy, and it was a whole scene, and not a good one. So I fled to Oklahoma University. I partied like a rock star, listened to a bunch of reggae music and a lot of Grateful Dead, and I did everything you shouldn't do. Wasn't studying at all. So I get back. Eventually, I get married um, to Alex. Great man. Just I couldn't speak more highly. He's up there with my dad. He was a fantastic person. We had a son, Justin, who came very early. Justin was born at 13 and a half ounces. Um, so he was in the NICU for 6 months, and you know, struggled to leave the hospital to see, women with their healthy babies going home. Um, we he eventually comes home, and 3 years later, Alex had an aneurysm,
Mm.
and um, it just seemed like too much.
Yeah.
You know, it was too much, and I I turned to, alcohol was the thing that was always on the table. And it was to change the way I felt, right? And it worked until stopped working. It didn't
Yeah.
work anymore. And those, at the end of that, you know, arc of fire, that's when I sat back and I was so angry, and that's when you know, I would literally say, like, seriously, like, really, you know, how much can a person, take?
Yeah.
It's too much. It's like, um, I'm, I'm so thin, I'm like tapped out, can you make it stop? And, that's where that came from. And then it became like this, once I stopped hating God,
Mhm.
um, my God's kind of my own way of thinking. It's not the traditional God, right? I have kind of this crew, that I like to think of, that I pray to, but for a long time I hated God. And then it was like, everything that happened after all that, I would just say, like, really? you know? And then it became, once I got into recovery, I've I've developed this relationship with a higher power, God, the Great Spirit, whatever you want to call it. My sobriety date is September 7th, 2015, and for that I'm truly grateful. And it is only by the grace of God. But I've come around to, it wasn't God making all those things. God didn't like have a calendar and a secretary and says, okay, today, this is what we're going to do to really mess her up. Schedule this on this day. Justin's going to be born really early. Alex is going to die. She's going to have depression. Like, that's not how it works, because my higher power, my God, loves me beyond words, for all that I am, all that I, was, all that I'm going to be, the good, the bad, the ugly, it's like that best friend, that ride or die. That's
Yeah.
my God. And so um, I love that I've developed this relationship with my higher power. And what I would say is, um, I knew there was a problem. There was a moment where I crossed the line from being the girl at the bar having a cocktail to, um, you know, Long Island's are a strong drink, and drinking them 24 hours a day for years, there's a problem, you
Yeah.
know. Um, and so um, I got to the point of surrender, you know, and there was a moment of grace. And I guess what I say to, um, just in recovery in general, right? Um, I have to say, and maybe it's Texas, and I think I've experienced this in other circles of recovery. Um, I don't see a lot of people that look like me, right? And I know out there, but I don't see a lot, you know. And but what I would say to anyone that's listening is, there's a way out.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like living with a mental health diagnosis, there's a way out there. There's a way out of the darkness of alcoholism or addiction. There's a way out. Once I admitted that, I had this problem, um, then the work has to happen.
Mhm.
And when that happens, there's a magic, there's this switch um, that happens where taking action um, to to stay sober one day at a time, um, and being surrounded by people that are doing the same thing is an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. So it's possible. Um, but I know how it feels to feel like there's no way I can do this today. I can't stop today. I get that. But here's what I also say. Um, Having depression or mental health diagnosis in general, when you pour alcohol or drugs on top of that, it just blows it up into this uncontrollable mass of negative energy. It's like, you know, pouring fire on fire, just to the fire just gets bigger and bigger. Um, I used to think it helped me, and then it came a moment where um, had to have it, and it wasn't helping me anymore. That's a bad place to be. Um, I heard this lady say once she had been in recovery and she started drinking again. And the one thing she said that I'll never forget, she said, when she started drinking again, when she could have stopped, she didn't want to.
Mm.
And when she wanted to stop, she couldn't,
Couldn't.
right? So that just kind of sums up my experience with being in recovery, being, you know, out there and being now on a different path, you know, working a program, um, having someone, I can talk to and work through things that has a little bit more experience than I do, helping me look at things from a different perspective,
Yeah.
seeing my part, letting go of resentments, accepting life on life's terms. These are things I would never have done before. That's what I avoided, feeling. So um yeah,
And you know what? You have to talk to people, and you have to talk to people who are equipped to
yes,
have those conversations that you need.
yes,
And,
yes.
my sister passed in October, and I know I was
I'm
sharing it
so
with someone,
sorry.
thank you. And they were saying, I have a grief counselor, that I can recommend. And I said, absolutely, because I didn't want to grieve the way that I've grieved in the past. I
Yes,
want, I put things in compartments and keep it moving. I didn't want to do
right,
that this time.
right.
And so I wholeheartedly welcomed having that conversation. But the key is I had a conversation with someone who's equipped to have
Yes,
that conversation with me.
yes,
And
yes,
so we have to recognize that when we're going through certain things, it's okay to share with a friend or whatever, some things, but you really need to talk to a person who's equipped to handle
yes,
whatever it
absolutely,
is that you're experiencing.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. You know, um, I've had a few therapists in my life. Um, the one that I've had some really good ones. The one that I'm seeing now, um, when I say that thing like, um, Justin was born under a pound. Um, I, I went to the hospital because I made an attempt and they called me self-inflict, the doctors and nurses. It was a joke, you know.
Hmm.
Um, I was at it in high school. Like I would just, yeah, that happened, but I want to focus on, my self-esteem or my confidence or being okay with looking in the mirror, and being okay with seeing myself and loving myself for who I am, my real self, being okay walking around. confident, comfortable in my being, that's what I want to work on.
Yeah.
And she said, oh, wait. She would say, Pam, let's go back here, because we need to help that 11-year-old Pam. We need to help her and all of the Pams along the way. We need to go back and go through that so that, because all of that has affected my self-esteem, has affected my confidence, has affected how I see about myself, which is one thing I'm working on now, not liking what I'm seeing in the mirror, you know. There's all these, that's all this work I've done,
Yeah.
which is great. And it's helped me in so many ways, but it doesn't mean I don't have more work to do, you know. And so um the person that I talk to now stops me and says, whoa, those are traumas. Those are traumas that we have to talk about and work through,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and you're right. We need to talk to someone that is equipped, that knows how to handle, how to help navigate through that. You know, we had the first Unitarian Universalist Church of San Antonio. I love that church. They're non-denominational. They have an LGBTQ group. They have Black Lives Matter working group. They have all these groups to touch on all of the kind of needs in society, around social justice, around resources. um, and the Black Lives Matter working group and an organization called Black Lives and Allies in Community, they organized, we did this Black Healing Circle, this healing space. And we had 2 licensed professionals who helped with the planning and were on there. And that's an amazing thing because, hello, I never heard of racial trauma before.
Hmm.
I never heard of that term, and so we don't hear this stuff. That happens to us. We see these tragic things
Yeah.
like
Oh,
George Floyd. That video it was terrifying, horrifying, hurtful. It just hurts. um Breonna Taylor. We organized the space originally because you've got these young people, brothers and sisters, young, they're out there in the streets fighting for social justice and change and, reform. And I thought, we talked about it and it's like they are, every time they confront, you know, um, the opposite, every time that exchange happens, every time um, there's, you know, physical altercations, every time there's hate, every time those things happen when they're on the streets, there's, I thought they must have things that are going on inside of them that they might need the space to talk about.
yes.
Um, you know, but it was so great to have um, these licensed professionals work with us on that. That space was an amazing space. Um, hope to do more of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? And you made a point that you do have to, you may have to go through several therapists or counselors to
Yeah.
get one that feeds your soul,
Yes.
right? That
Yes.
one that like, oh my God, thank you so much. You're helping me through this.
Mm.
And so that's something to know as well, right? So for those
Yeah.
that are listening, those that are watching, you may go to a counselor, you may go to a therapist, and maybe you don't connect.
Right.
That's okay. Don't give up. find
Okay.
somebody else.
Right.
Find
Right.
somebody else. It's like with anything, it's a relationship.
Correct.
And so if
Correct.
you don't jive, if you're not connecting, it's not to say, oh, this doesn't work. No,
Right.
find somebody else.
Move on to
Move
the
on.
next one.
Move
Right.
on. And
Right.
Pam, trauma. So, you've mentioned it a lot. I think I even said it, through this conversation. And you're right. We don't realize that trauma. Again, it goes back to what I said earlier, sometimes until it becomes physical.
Yes.
So now again, layers on top of layers, because not only do I need to deal with this physical, I need to
Right.
go and de-layer to figure
Right.
out how did we get here.
Right.
Girl, remember when you were tired and you kept sleeping and this, that, and the other? Yeah, that was starting. Or remember when you said this and did that, or and all of those type of
Right.
things. That's kind of where it started, or that was the
Right.
middle of it,
Right.
etc. But we
Right.
have to take that time, right? And even if we don't feel that we need it, do it anyway. Take the time anyway. We have to schedule it,
Right.
put it on your calendar, whatever you need to do. I love my iPhone watch because it will tell me, you know, random times, breathe.
Yes. That's important.
Listen, and you know what? So I'm thinking about it today. I don't know if it told me to breathe today, but I'm thinking, does it sense what's going on? This technology
Right.
nowadays, because I'm like,
Right.
and a few times I felt like I may have been in a stressful situation or
Right.
something that was
Right.
bothering me, and then bam, here I go with that,
Right.
breathe. So I'm like, okay,
Right.
so
That's amazing.
right. But the key is
Right.
you got to take care of yourself. You got to
Right.
pull back, fall back.
Right.
And you
Right.
have to do it often. Do it before you have to. Do it before
Right.
you get sat down, or any of that.
Right.
So,
Right.
Pam, you talked about the therapist and how, what about 11-year-old Pam? And
Right.
so there's a lot of Black women who do not recognize the power of their voices, regardless of their situation. So,
Right.
regardless if they are LGBTQ plus, if they have a
Right.
mental illness, suffering
Right.
depression, addiction, etc., any of that. Um, so I want to go to that 11-year-old Pam because she didn't recognize the power of her voice.
No.
What would you tell her today?
Oh God. You must have been talking to my
I
therapist.
know, right? I was like, why you going there, girl? That's my question. Hold
Okay. That's deep.
on.
Um,
Girl, it's the
okay.
iPhone. It's like the
You
iPhone. It's
might be
tapping
making me
into it.
sweat on this one. Um, yeah, that's the homework, right? I'm working on. Um, I want to tell her, don't, what I've heard is don't compare um your insides to other people's outsides.
Hmm.
Don't, you're okay. You're fine. You're amazing. You have a pretty smile.
Hmm.
You're smart. You're sassy. Um, you love your family. You're a loyal friend. When you look in the mirror, um, see what your mother and father see, and you see that beautiful girl um, with this beautiful smile. And um, you're going to grow up to be an amazing person in your own right, not about whatever other people have done or doing, but in your own right, you're you're going to go through some major, I'm not going to cuss on here, but you're going to go through some, major and um you're going to you are going to come through the other side because you're a strong girl. You're a strong girl, and all that you go through is gonna make you. Um, you're gonna have the chance to tell your story, and you're gonna help people, and you know,
Oh, you're helping a lot of 11-year-old Pams right now. So I don't know
I'm
if you know
sorry.
that. There is nothing for you to apologize for. This is healing. We're healing. Okay. There are
Yeah,
women, there are girls, there are men,
yeah,
people who are, non-gender conforming who are listening and they're going through some things. So to hear
yeah.
from you, Pam, this whole conversation is something that they needed. And I'm going to tell you, it's divine. Because we were supposed to talk, I think, in February, right? And I had to reschedule. No, we were supposed to talk in December, but I'm like, oh, I'm going to take, right? And so I scheduled for May, not even realizing and thinking about it being Mental Health Awareness Month, not thinking about
That's
any
fine.
of that. So that's what I'm saying by it being divine, right? This is
Yeah,
this is a time that we were supposed to talk and to have this conversation. And
yeah.
so, yes, you're brave, you're courageous, you're beautiful, you have a wonderful spirit. You are
Thank you.
pouring into other people. You are healing so many people right now. So
Thank
many
you.
people.
Thank you.
We don't even know the impact that we're having, Pam, but our God, our higher power, our higher being, etc., put
Mhm.
these things into us to pour into other people. You
Oh,
know,
that's
I'm all,
beautiful.
I'm all about elevating the voices
Beautiful.
of women of color, and you've helped me to do that because you've been a voice. You've been a voice for me, and so that's what we do. That's what the sisterhood is about. So,
Right.
thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank
Thank you.
you.
And so, just switching up a little bit, I mentioned my sister. My sister was
Right.
an author and a poet, published author. She wrote the book Dreams Deferred. Pam, have you deferred a dream? And if so, what have you done about it? What are you going to do about it if you haven't done anything?
I wanted to write a book. Let's see.
And you still can if that's what you want.
Since about 2000,
Okay.
I've thought about it every single day,
Wow.
every single day. Um, and everyone says it'd be a great book, but you know, I defer it because I don't think people will read it. Um, I deferred it because I don't know if it would help anybody. I deferred it because um, there are parts of myself that people don't know about, um, parts that are, that still haunt me, you know. Um, so I've deferred it. It, it's um, it's an insecurity that's been with me since 2000. But I did write um, one paragraph about 2 weeks ago, and I read it to my wife, Linda, and she's always been like, you know, she's just my, you know, everything. And she said, babe, it's so beautiful. You have to start writing. You've got to get it out. Doesn't even matter. Maybe you just write it for me or your family or, you know. And so I started writing, and she gave me this beautiful, like, leatherback journal that has like this cool, like, um, it's like old, old school. And I started writing. And then I've been using these post-it notes when I start thinking of things, you know, the pool when I was 10, 11. Um, that's the birth of my insecurity,
Mm.
you know. And so I started writing, and it doesn't matter, what happens. It might be 3 pages, it might be 30, it might be 100, but I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. And I've been doing it a little bit by little bit. And I'm excited that I've just started doing it. And um, I think the thing about going after your dream is um, it's a it's a little spark that hasn't been ignited. And when you go after your dream, you light that spark, you know. Um, and it you don't it there's no boundaries to your dreams, you know. Um, they're 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 boundless, you know. And I've heard people say that. I've heard, successful people, that haven't gone to college, but they're like one of the world's richest people
Yeah.
say that, you know, the dreams it starts somewhere, You don't know where you're going to end up, but why not just light that spark, you know? This is a dream of mine to be able to tell part of my story that so that it might help one person um, not put their light out, you know? So this has been like one of my dreams. I just wasn't sure how it was gonna happen, Um, but I'd hope one day that I would be able to share part of my story so that whether it's that 10-year-old, Black girl that has these strange feelings for women and is scared and insecure and doesn't know if it's worth it, or whether it's that, 50-year-old woman that hasn't been able to, that's been struggling um, because it seems more difficult to ask for help than it is to keep struggling. And that's is a dream to say it's easier to ask for help.
Yeah.
You'll breathe if you ask for help, you know? So, yeah, you know? Yeah.
That's
So,
beautiful. That's
thank
beautiful.
you.
And you said about if it's not a if, uh, it will help people.
Thank you.
Again, like I said, this conversation has helped people. When you were on the panel back in 2019, it helped people. So you have something that others, plural,
Right,
need to hear.
right,
And I'm so
right,
appreciative of this time we're having right now, this intimate conversation, because somebody needs to hear it. I needed to hear a
right.
lot of what you're talking about.
Oh, thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely right. Because it's a reminder that we have to take care of ourselves and that we own it and
Right,
we have to speak up. People go
right,
through life and they're
right,
just smiling. When they're eating,
right.
they're tearing up inside. They're
They're
torn up
dying
inside,
inside. That's right,
and you have
right,
to say something. You have to speak because we face trauma constantly.
right,
You talked about, being a Black woman, being a gay woman, you have a
right,
Black son. We live in this
right,
world where
right.
they're constant attack.
Mhm.
And it's
Right,
all those layers, like you said, layers, layers, layers on top of themselves.
right,
And you wake up and you're like, I don't know what this is.
right, right,
So you have to talk to somebody. You have to say it to yourself first
right, right,
and then get
right,
the help that you need. So this conversation is so important to people who are struggling in form, any
right,
form or fashion. Talk to somebody.
right, right.
Talk to somebody. So Pam, as we begin to wrap up, and before I get to the bonus question, um, has anything else come to mind? I know in the very beginning there were some other things you were thinking about, but you didn't get it out. Did it come back to you?
Um, I I think um well, I guess what I want to say is that there's going to be a lot of different people listening to this, and um there are, sorry, that's my mom. Sorry. There are people from all sorts of cultures that struggle,
Mm.
and there are a lot of cultures that it they feel like it brings shame on the family to ask for help. And there are veterans. We have to remember that we have Black women that are serving in the military.
Mm.
That is a very tough club to talk to about mental health. Um, and I think so when we include layers, that's part of um, the layer that probably extends out. Um, what else was I thinking? Um, I can't remember what else I was thinking.
That's fine. That's fine. Well, so, so the bonus question again, we've kind of, touched on this, but like I
Right,
said, May is Mental Health Month, and we're
right,
still in the throes of COVID and racial
right,
injustice. Again,
right,
started doing some work there after George Floyd was murdered, in what you're doing through your church, what you're doing through the employee groups.
right.
How are you taking care of you beyond what we've already talked about?
Um, Therapy, um, recovery groups, um, dogs, um, um, coloring,
Ah.
um, oh, holding space and time when Linda comes off from her tour to be together and to just be together and whatever it is that we're doing, um, that we're just enjoying ourselves being together, laughing and talking. That's the best. Um, prayer,
Yeah.
prayer is huge. Um, I'm trying to think of, um, I use a lot of tools. Um, I've recently started walking. I don't like to exercise, and I'm not spinning because I feel like that's too intimate of a relationship, that spin class.
Right.
Yeah, not working myself into the ground,
Hmm.
you know, um, breathing, meditating. That's the best. Um, oh, and I love gardening.
Okay.
I love planting flowers. I've planted a lot of flowers, and I'm thinking, and Linda knows there's a lot of flowers. I planted flowers at my parents' house, and I'm thinking about planting more flowers because I love getting the little ones, the ones that don't look like they're gonna make it.
And bringing them
I
back.
love getting those and putting them in and watching them just bloom. That is the most amazing thing. They just they go from this that no one picks up. Sometimes they're on the clearance rack, you know, at you know, and I love picking those up. Or when I'm going through flowers, I like to look at the ones that are like, maybe no one's gonna get them, and plant them and give them food and light and water. And so when I come out in the morning, in our back porch, they're blooming everywhere. They're just blooming. They just needed love,
Yeah.
you know.
They
It's
needed someone to
very
invest in them, to take the
yes,
time with them,
yes,
to
yeah,
pour into them and to
yeah,
love them.
yeah.
So
So
that practice. So you're practicing, through your plants. And I would tell you, so I love sunflowers. And
oh
yes,
yes,
And so I wanted to grow some in the backyard, but when I thought about it, I think it was too late in the season. I did end up
Right.
ordering the seeds, and so I put them in little pots to do it in the home. And it was
Right.
amazing just to watch them go, right? Because you're looking at
Yeah.
dirt, you're watering dirt, whatever,
Right.
you see a little sprout. And then it came and
Yeah.
it had like three different like little leaves or whatever, but that's about
Right.
as far as
Right.
we got. Unfortunately for me, right? So I'm going to have to invest some more time in that. But it is amazing. I was so amazed, like, oh my God, look at this. I think that I was being just overzealous and putting like three in a pot when I probably should have just put
Right.
one
Right.
in a pot and whatever, and then just
Right.
focus on
Right.
that. But that still was
Right.
amazing, right? And
Yeah.
it was wonderful to watch that, that growth,
Right.
and so I bring it up and to emphasize about pouring into people,
Yes,
pouring
I
into
love that.
yourself, and what you get out of that. You get
Right.
beautiful flowers.
Yeah.
You get something that's going to grow and that's going to bloom. And it's
Right.
something that you did and you poured into and you invested. And
Right.
so do that to yourself, right?
Right. Right.
So our listeners and those that are watching, invest in yourself. You have to take care of you first,
Right.
then go ahead and pour into other
Yes.
people. So
Yeah.
this has been
Yes.
beyond amazing conversation. And I also have to shout out that Pam, she's talking about, wanting to write a book. She's already been writing because last year she did write. So really God is something that Pam wrote. Pam, you did
Right.
it for the church, I
I
believe.
did. I
Yes.
did.
And as a matter of fact, it is on the an intimate conversation with women of color website.
Thank
Okay, I told you, me and Pam are connected. Listen, when we connect,
you.
we stay
Connect.
connected. That's how I do. That's a sisterhood. But Pam, before we, say goodbye, what
Right.
do you want to leave our listeners and watchers with?
Love yourself.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel like you can love yourself, allow others to love you. Life is worth it. Hang on another day. Hang on another minute. And then hang on another minute and put minutes together and ask for help and don't struggle in silence. Um, no 2 days are the same, right? And I'm going to continue to live with this. And so know that I'm telling myself the same thing, hang on another day, be kind to myself, love myself. There's no shame in asking for help when you're not feeling okay. There's no shame in that. And if you're fortunate to work for a firm like EY and they have resources, just about everyone does, take advantage of it. It's worth it, you know, it's worth it. So I just want to thank you, Deneen, for allowing me to be in this space with you to talk about something that's a passion of mine. Um, and I didn't think I would go this deep, but there it is.
There it is.
um, I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you.
No, I appreciate you so much. I do. Um, this was meant to be. This
Yeah.
conversation was meant to be for you, for
Yes.
me, and for those that are listening and watching. So I so greatly appreciate you. And so for our listeners and watchers, whether you're listening on your favorite podcast, you're watching on YouTube, we also will be doing an IG live on Saturday. So, pop in on Instagram at 12 noon. We're going to just kick it, for a few minutes and whatnot, and,
Yeah.
change up the conversation.
Right.
But so, Pam Illar,
Yeah.
thank you so much for lending your voice, your beautiful spirit to
Thank
an
you.
intimate conversation with women of color, and enjoy the
Thank,
rest of your day.
thank you, Deneen. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.